Veterans experience different challenges due to our experiences, especially when compared to our civilian counterparts. However, veterans that receive VA compensation or veterans who are planning to submit for VA claims have an end to improve their overall credit score. Today, we have David Piatek, who is going to talk to us about the impact of credit on home ownership and life in general. David, go ahead and take it away.
What's up, Clay? Thanks again for having me on. If you guys haven't checked out my channel, VA Housing Education, make sure you do because we do a lot of stuff around the VA home loan. So, Clay, I'm glad that we're talking about this topic because a lot of veterans out there just have questions in general about credit itself.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people out there too that veterans, especially, that are eligible for their VA loan, but they're actually not qualified because of their credit, which I think is unfortunate because of the VA home loans huge benefit. And I know we always talk about this, but just a couple key ones like 100% financing, no private mortgage insurance, flexible underwriting, flexible debt to income ratios. And credit is one of those things where the part where it makes it confusing is that the VA itself technically does not have a minimum credit score. So, in theory, somebody with a 400 can use their VA home loan, but most lenders are going to have an overlay. And I'll give you an example. Is like if I came to you, right, and I wanted to borrow $500,000 and I didn't make any payments on time, but I pinky swore that I would make my payments on time for a mortgage moving forward, would you take that?
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of like the challenge. Even though people don't necessarily think that credit represents who they are, but it does have a past performance. So it's like getting when you're getting an NCO or whatever, right? You're trying to go to the next rank, you get an evaluation. And so
Mhm.
it's the same thing here is they're evaluating your past performance to see how you're going to perform in the future. So we should all be used to it at this point. So definitely, it's a good topic to go over.
Yeah, so question for you, David, because if credit scores is such a linchpin to home
Mhm.
ownership, whether you own a home or you're trying to own a home, it all depends on that credit score being the linchpin. Are there any quick strategies specifically to veterans to improve that credit score, right? And mainly those who are receiving compensation or those who are about to receive compensation can back pay or any of the VA disability claim world, and that income kind of help veterans with that credit score.
That's like a 6-hour answer, but let me shorten it down. All right. I'm going to also distinguish one thing is that having no credit score is okay because you use what's called non traditional credit. And I have a whole video on that on my YouTube channel versus having a bad credit score. Okay. So they're two very different things.
Hmm.
So I would say that any veteran that is thinking about anything as far as purchases. This goes credit cards, cars, boats, whatever, motorcycle, housing, is you need to actually set up credit monitoring. That's extremely important because at least if something is happening on your credit report, you're getting notified. So one thing you're avoiding is identity theft. That's one. Two, if you're not using your credit, make sure you lock it so you don't have that identity theft piece. Okay. The third part of there's there's a lot of people out there that say there's quick fixes or there's these companies that will you pay them a bunch of money and then they'll go out and like dispute things for you. Then all of a sudden you see your credit score improve. Well, the problem is that it only improves temporarily until those disputes are gone, right? And I see this all the time. I almost feel like it's kind of like a predatory piece to getting people to give them money and they're just doing the basic rinse and repeat thing, which if you do some YouTube research, you can probably do it yourself. It just takes a little bit of time, right? Just like with VA disability, just like learning about housing, it's up to you to get educated and then come back and be like, all right, hey, I know what I'm doing. Um, so and I again, it's kind of like a loaded question. So
Yeah.
and the other part to it, which I want to talk a little bit more about, is going to be budgeting, right? Because
Hmm.
a lot of times the challenge with credit in essence is pretty simple. Pay all your bills on time and pay off all your debt on a monthly basis minus your long-term debt. Like that statement is easy to say, but I think that the challenge is that how do life events happen and let's say you've fallen behind, how do you then catch up, and what are some answers or like key things you can take away from that?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of veterans being debt free with the exception of their mortgage. Now, personally, I'm a fan of paying off your mortgage. I understand there's a many ways you can go on that. I am
Right.
100%, I am team 100% debt free,
Yeah. And
which leads me to a question. Go ahead.
yeah, well, one thing I'll say that we've had a lot of people reach out that watch the channel, and I am pleasant to say that a lot of folks actually come in. We've talked with 100% PNT, no debt, monthly debt, not even car payments. It
Mm,
makes me proud when I see that because it opens up you. It's freedom, right? When you don't
yeah.
have to make a bill, and for folks that are looking for a lot of strategies, Dave Ramsey does have a lot of strategies as well to kind of combat your debt. And most of the time, it's really budget. People don't budget. So when they don't budget, they overspend, they get in credit card debt, and it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, and on budgeting, I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
that up. I'm also a huge fan of I had someone else on the channel probably a few weeks ago. He had said this statement. He said it's not about living within your means, it's about living well within your
Right.
means. And when it comes to the home, that's a huge piece of that. The house will put you paycheck to paycheck. And paycheck to
Easy.
paycheck does not discriminate. You can either make $1,000 a month and be paycheck to paycheck. You can make $1 million a month and still be paycheck to paycheck, right?
Right.
And so when it comes to the home, what is a realistic price range um, where veterans can actually afford? And when I say afford, I mean living well within their means to go out to dinner, to pay off their car debt, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and so this is going to be really based on each individual person, but I'll kind of give you some general parameters because the not the problem with the V loan. I'm making this the V loan is awesome, but
Mhm.
it definitely is very, very loose. And I'll say this in this sense. They look at what's called residual income. So, like in the Midwest, I mean, like based on like a family size of three, roughly, okay, I'm roughly speaking here, they need you to have net income of like $700 a month. That doesn't include car insurance, groceries, getting gas, emergencies. So
Like
that's why
disposable.
people, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a crazy small amount. So, and I don't recommend going up to going with only like the VA's minimum requirements because it's not gonna be a good situation to be in. So, when you think about budgeting, you really have to go through what you spend on a monthly basis, both your fixed costs, what your variable costs are, and you also need to look at your monthly pay. Like if you take your disability, you have regular income, make sure that you're looking at your net income and also print your bills out. The challenge, I think, Clay, is that I think life has gotten too easy for people.
Yeah.
I can just plug everything in, it does everything for me. I think it's a little too easy because you're not really seeing like what is your credit card interest. So I'm a fan of print. I make people print everything out. I want you to look at your statements. Let's look at the interest. Let's look how much you're actually spending monthly on all your bills. And then you're basically taking a look at your income, how much you spend, your budget, and then that's how you're adjusting to what you're comfortable with in a housing piece. Another big part is going through it right now. The amount of stuff that you have to buy just to work around the house is also expensive. And if
Mhm.
something goes wrong, like a furnace goes out, that's not like, hey, we're going to drop a couple $100. I think is very important on the property, but that takes money, and that's why you also need savings with that. And to your point, being under what your means allows you to save money, right? And I think for a lot of veterans too, I've been seeing more and more veterans getting side gigs where they're making extra money on the side to maybe either pay off debt or saving up for home ownership, or they just love working, or they're working on their
So
disability increase because that is another way that people can set themselves free. I've seen it plenty of times, right?
mhm.
But especially I love seeing veterans that are debt free. They get like a $50,000 back pay. That's money to go straight in the bank. You should probably invest it, if anything. I'm not a financial advisor. It's my disclaimer. but you probably want to do something with that money. So,
Yeah, maybe not go buy a brand new car, right? That you can't
right. Or
afford.
hit the casino, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the two.
But if you'd win, though,
If
it's gonna
you
be
would
pretty
win
good.
all on red, Clay, you can put it on black. I'll put it on red and see what happens.
All right. So you had mentioned something about either paying off debt or saving up for a down payment for a
Mm,
home. Which, in your experience, is better, or is it completely situational dependent?
It's situational, and I'll give you guys an example here. I got my nifty calculator here. So let me just do some quick math. So I'm just going to throw in a hypothetical. So let's say $50,000 on a mortgage payment versus, let's say, paying something off. And let's just say, hypothetically, for educational purposes, I do a 6% interest rate over 30 years. That basically is a $300 a month payment. Okay. 50,000 equivalent to $300. So if you
Mhm.
think about, let's say, credit card debt of $50,000, it's going to be way more than 300. Now, understandably, for the people out there that are real technical, like, yes, you're going to pay interest over the life of that loan. You pay more money. I get that. But this is the key. If you pay off your shorter term debt, like credit cards, which have high payments, and then you take those same payments you would have made towards your credit card, but now put them into paying off the home faster, you then save a ton in interest, right? So if you're saving 2,000 a month, you're saving 2,000 a month, but you're spending $300 for more for like the mortgage because you're not putting a $50,000 down payment. That's money in your pocket, right? But again, it's going to be circumstantial. Like, some people have student loans and they're going through the VA disability process and they're thinking they're going to get to 100% PNT. So now their student loans are going to get paid off. And I've seen that work plenty of times, but that is a strategy you can use. So
Mhm.
that's why when you're buying a home and when that time frame is right, that's why you want to get in as early as possible. Have someone like me review your financial picture. That way you're going to be set up in 6 months here, not like going out of the blue and saying like, hey, I'm buying a house next week, and then you're not prepared. Like, it's unfortunate, but we see that often.
All right, and to wrap this up, and you had almost said it perfectly, David. How can veterans reach out to you?
Yeah, I think the best way is in the description down below. You can schedule a call with me. And then you can also check out my channel via Housing Education. So if you guys, sometimes people are in the early stages, they're just kind of like, I want to get some info. Check out all the videos. We do live events all the time, so you guys can check them out and ask any questions. But Clay, thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.